Mama,
Yes,
introduce yourself.
I'm Glenda Alligood.
Yeah. What's your
I'm
middle name?
called Glenda Levine Alligood.
And what was your maiden name?
Levine.
Your maiden name was Levine?
I didn't have a middle name.
Oh, okay. Really?
Really.
That's crazy. I didn't know that you did. I thought your middle name was Levine. So, where were you born?
I was born in Ozona in a house, in a little greenhouse behind Uncle's store. And when Carrie was a little baby, we rented that house and lived in the same exact house that we were born in.
Really? What, you were born in the house?
Yep.
You weren't born in a hospital?
No.
Is that before your time?
Me
Or
and
after
me,
your time?
me and Linda was the last ones to be born at home.
Okay. And what number child were you of how many?
I was the seventh child out of 13 kids. I was the first girl. And then Linda, 5 minutes later, was the eighth child, and she was the second girl.
The second girl. So you had six older brothers?
Well, my mother had a stillborn baby. Her second baby was stillborn.
That's sad. And who were you closest with out of your siblings growing up when you were younger?
Probably Linda and Addie Mae.
Anime was great.
I know.
I loved anime.
I
I
know.
mean, Aunt Linda was too, but
Yeah.
saying we lost anime when I was really young.
She was a sweetheart, too.
Yeah. What were they like growing? What was it like growing up with that many siblings?
You had to wait, either get up real early to get to the bathroom or else wait in line to be the last. You, to get it, to get in there.
Yeah. What about food and stuff?
My mother used to wake us up before they got up, where she could get us to eat before they did. We didn't we didn't have a table and chairs. We had a big table with two benches on it.
Mm. Was there room at the table for everybody?
Not at one time.
Everybody, did you have to eat in sections or?
Yeah, we eat it in session. Yeah, the girls usually eat first, and the boys eat second. I don't remember well, I don't even remember much about Alice being born, but I don't remember anything about. Well, I don't remember anything about Addie Mae being born. I mean, Alice being born. I remember Addie Mae being born.
Was anime the youngest?
Yeah, Addie Mae was not the youngest child.
The youngest
She was
girl?
no. The, Mama had six boys,
Mm-hmm.
and then she had six girls, and she had one boy.
Wow. So six boys, six girls, and then just one boy.
Yep,
Think if she would have kept going, she would have had five more boys.
probably. But I guess she was too old. She was 42 years old when she had my brother, my baby brother.
And how young was she when she had your oldest brother?
She must have been 21.
Wow. That's 2 decades of having kids.
Yep, because she was 30 when she had me and Linda.
Who is the wildest sibling?
If you ask everybody else, they'd say me, but I don't. I know. No, they wouldn't say me. They'd say Alice.
Alice?
Yeah,
And what number was she?
she was just after me and Linda,
Okay.
so she was not.
Well, did you go to school with your siblings?
Yeah, most of them. Now we were a lot older than Biggie and Little Bit, Margie Kay and Myrtle Bay.
Yeah.
So we probably didn't go to the same schools as them.
Okay.
Or Shorty, his name was Albert Joseph.
Was was Aunt Linda in all of the classes with you since you guys were twins?
Till we got to high school. Yeah,
And then y'all got split up.
yeah,
You went to Picayune High
yeah.
School? Cool.
Up until the very last 6 weeks, I went to Carrier
Oh, okay. Why is that?
because I had a I had a fight with the teacher. And I got up and left, went home.
What'd you fight with the teacher over?
I was being funny, and she didn't like it.
You funny?
She, yeah, she used to come in the room. She's a real old woman. She'd come in the room and she'd go, shh. And so one day she did that, and I jumped up on a chair and said, "I hear a snake." And she got mad.
She didn't think that was funny.
Um,
I think it's pretty funny.
I think it's funny too.
And so, were you forced to leave, or
No,
did you
she
just?
just standing there belittling me in front of everybody. So I just walked out the door and went home.
And then just decided you go to Carrier?
Well, there wasn't much choice then.
Okay, so you did get in trouble with like the
But
principal and
no, no, we didn't have any. I just wasn't going back to her class, and I had to have it to graduate.
yeah. So did you have to retake that class at Carrier?
Well, I didn't. I didn't because we had Carrie didn't have as many units to have as Picayune did then.
So you already had the credits you
Yeah,
needed to graduate. So you just got to go to
and
school there for
just
fun for 6 weeks.
yeah.
Was it fun?
It, I didn't hardly know anybody, but I reckon it was okay. Linda was she got along better with all of them than I did, I think.
Was it in the was PRC? Was it PRC back then?
Yeah. Did you realize that me and Jackson graduated exactly 50 years and one day apart
Really?
from the same exact place? No, I'm lying. He graduated at Poppleville, but he graduated on the 18th of May 2018, and I graduated May the 17th of 1968. So exactly 50 years and one day apart.
That's crazy. That's insane.
You graduated in the May the 21st
I think so, yeah.
in 2015. I remember that too.
My class was the first class to graduate at the college to do our
Okay.
graduation ceremony there. We did it in the basketball gym.
That's where we did it on the football field.
Yeah, they used to do it on the football field. We were the first class that didn't do it on the football field. But was the school was in the same place, same
Yeah,
buildings?
same buildings. There's a lot more buildings now than there
Yeah.
was then. But yeah,
So you probably had what was our G Hall where the gym is?
we went into the gym. Yeah, the, back then the elementary and the middle school was in there too.
Okay.
So it was a lot. It wasn't as many people.
Right. So they built the middle school
Yeah,
later
and the
and then
elementary.
they added buildings to the high school.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And you went to PRCC, right?
Yeah, I did for
What was
one
your
year.
major?
I was just taking what I was taking was political science because I wanted to be a paralegal, but I only got 33 hours, and Carrie was a little girl then.
When did you have Chad?
Chad Chad was born in 1971. I was 21 years old, and Carrie was born when I was 23 in 74.
Just a couple years later.
Yeah.
And how were they as kids? Did they get along the whole time? Did they fight a lot at a
They
certain age?
they got along with each other most of the time. Once in a while, Carrie wouldn't do what Chad wanted to do, and they'd get in a fight. But she beat him up one time. She she turned his finger back. I had to take him to the hospital with his finger. She hurt it.
Well, let's step it back a little further. I want to hear about how you met Paw Paw. The whole story of how you met him.
Okay, I met him at a bar, and Christine Riles, that was a neighbor of mine. Her sister was married to Cooter's brother, and she was standing there talking to him. So I walked over there to her, and she said she's going to introduce me to him. And she said, "Do you want me to call you Kenneth or Cooter?" And he just looked at her like she's crazy. And so I said, "Well, what do you want me to call you?" He said, You can call me anytime." That don't sound like him, does it?
No.
Well, the next time I seen him was a few weeks later. I was with somebody. I had a date. I was with somebody, and that Glenn Tate, he went into the bathroom, and whenever I seen Cooter standing there, I walked up to him and I said, "You told me I could call you anytime, but you didn't give me any phone numbers." That don't sound like me either.
Right.
But I just wanted to know him.
Yeah. And
So what did he do? He didn't really have a phone in his house. So he started searching for a piece of paper and a pencil to write my phone number down. So that's what he done. And about that time, Glenn come back out there. And I was telling him my number.
what was he like when you first met him? Was he like the line that you said, "You can call me anytime"? That's a bit charming. Was he charismatic and
No, he was just like he always was, just laid back and just relaxed. That's what I said. It never just sounded like him. I couldn't get over. He was a woman. He liked women. Now he had a lot of girlfriends. Yeah. Whenever I first started dating him, we'd go somewhere and there'd be people, girls sending beers over there to him, and I'd just drink them.
you were married before you met
Yeah,
Paul, right?
I was.
Yeah, tell me about that.
That was a bad thing. That was a bad thing, and it was a big mistake. The only good thing that come out of it was Chad. He was a he was a abusive person. He beat me, and it just wasn't a good thing.
I'm sorry. And what, you just met him when you were younger and
I worked with him at the factory, and he was from Poplarville. I didn't know him. He was stupid, really, and I guess I married him because everybody I knew that was my age was married, and I wasn't. And I guess I thought I wasn't going to get married if I didn't take it.
yeah, you just felt the social pressure
Yeah.
to make something happen, and you
Yep.
thought that this might be as good as it gets, so
Yep.
you jumped on it. Yeah, no, that's really common for people to feel like that. You shouldn't feel bad about.
I don't. The only thing I hate is I stayed with him as long as I did, but at least I had Chad for 25 years because of it.
I'm thankful that you
Man.
were aware that it wasn't a good situation for you and that you
Yeah.
got out of it. Because if you hadn't, I wouldn't be here.
But your grandpa, he was the best person, one of the best people in the world.
So, for kind of tying it back to when you met Papa, how old were you when you met him?
I was 23.
Okay, so when you were 23,
I was really 22 when I first met him. I remember he bought me something on my birthday, for my 23rd birthday. He bought me a lighter.
oh, okay,
It's probably in there in one of them cookie jars.
probably. You got a lot of stuff hidden away in the cookie jars.
Yep.
But, so you were 22 when you met him, and he was what, probably 25?
Yep, 25.
25. So just a side note, because I think this is a funny coincidence. Mom and Dad had me when Mom was 22 and Dad was 25. You met Pawpaw when you were 22 and Pawpaw was 25.
Yeah.
I met Aubrey when she's 22 and I'm 25.
We got a good thing going here.
Yeah. Just a coincidence I wanted to point out. But so what were you doing just in life at the time when you met him, and what was he doing, and how
Okay, I met him in 72, and he had just been out of the Army. He got out of the Army in early He hadn't been out of the, not Army, Air Force. He'd only been out of the Air Force just over a year, not quite 2 years whenever I met him. I didn't ever know him when he was in the Air Force. He was a carpenter, and he mostly hung sheetrock. And I worked at, me and Chad lived with Mama and Daddy, and I worked at the Grants, which is a store. It used to be in town. I worked there in the where they had a luncheonette thing. I worked there.
So
But I also have when after I had Chad and after I knew Cooter too, I tied steel on that interstate that's from Slidell to Gulfport. From Interstate 10,
yeah,
I tied steel on that interstate.
I didn't know what is tying steel.
Underneath the concrete,
Yeah,
it's got webs of of steel like this.
like rebarb.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you take a hook and you put it under there, and then you get both ends of it and go like this, and tie the steel together. And every so often you have to tie them together where it'll be safe.
So you're part of the reason that we can drive around here safely.
Yep.
You added the support to the roads. That's impressive. Well, I didn't know that. And what was the first job that you ever had?
First job I ever had was
And it could be like working for somebody's parent or something.
the first job I ever had was at the Frost Top in PQ.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Has it always been in the same location?
Yep.
Okay. Did they used to have the big root beer on the
Yep.
roof, huh?
I got a picture of that too.
You do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's how they found out something was wrong with my lungs.
Mm.
Back then, whenever you worked in a restaurant, you had to have a food handler health certificate, which involved an x-ray. And whenever they x-rayed me, they said I had a tuberculosis. So they sent me to, even though all the tuberculosis tests turned out negative, they still sent me to a tuberculosis sanatorium in McGee, Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed 7 weeks there.
Wow.
And they said, you don't have tuberculosis because tuberculosis don't stay in one stage this long. So they didn't know what was wrong with me. And I went back to Mama's, and that I had a birthday while I was there, and then's when I turned 16, and they sent me to Jackson Hospital, and they did X-rays on my lungs, and that's when they found out I had the AB fistula in my lung, and I had to have my lung removed.
So you had your lung removed a long time ago.
Yeah, when I was just 16 years old,
Oh my God.
in 1965.
I thought that it was way later than that.
I just made 16.
Well, at least they got it.
Yep.
It's a coincidence that you had to
Yeah.
get the x-ray
Yeah.
in.
I have a lobe still in there, but it doesn't function.
I gotcha. So, you worked at Frost Stop for how long?
Till I got put in the hospital, I guess. When I
Yeah.
come back, I did work there for a while.
Okay.
Linda had took my place whenever I left, and she worked there until all through high school and everything. I worked at Wilson's drugstore in the soda fountain department. It was like soda fountains you see on like Mayberry and all that.
Yeah.
Or the handmade your milkshake. And
Yeah.
that's what I worked there when I was in high school.
You make malts and stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Were they good? Was it a
To me,
popular
they was.
spot?
To
Was
me,
it-
they was.
Was it popular? A lot of people come in?
Well, not like you think teenagers or nothing, but there was it was right in the middle of a business part of town, and a lot of people that worked in the business would come by there and get ice cream or a milkshake or a sandwich or something.
Okay. That's interesting.
But it wasn't kids.
So you worked Frost Stop, and then you worked at Wilson's drugstore? That was the
Wilson's
name of it?
drugstore.
And so were you in high school during working at Wilson's?
Yeah, I was in high school. My first job when I got out of high school was at the garment factory in
Yeah.
Poppleville.
Okay. Yeah, that's the one right
That's where
across
I
from the
met Gendry.
college. Were you going to school while you were working there?
No, I didn't go to school till I was 30-something years old.
Okay.
Till Carrie was already in school.
Okay.
No, I was planning on going to college, but I got me a car, so I had to work then and pay the notes.
Yeah.
So
What kind of car did you get?
I got me a Volkswagen, a brand new 1969 Volkswagen.
Well, was it the Beetle?
Yeah,
Yeah.
blue. Yeah, it was. They in the '68 and '69 they put the um the bumpers were like they are now.
Okay.
Before that, they had the other kind of bumpers. You your papa used to could. He thought it was so funny because I could tell the different years in the Volkswagens, and he couldn't.
That is funny. I wouldn't be able to tell.
You could tell by where the. I don't know if I could now, but you could tell by their bumpers or where their gas tanks were.
Do you remember how much you paid for it?
Oh yeah, about $1,900.
$1,900. Wow. Brand new.
Brand new.
That's crazy.
I know.
Inflation's a heck of a thing, isn't it?
It's crazy. Yep, that's crazy. But you could get bread 4 loaves for $1.
Yeah. That's insane. So, you worked at the garment factory, and you already said you met your first husband
There,
working there. And so you got together with him. How long did you work at the garment factory?
I worked there 2 or 3 years. Not with him, because we didn't. I wasn't married to him, but a little over a year.
Okay.
But whenever I finally did make up my mind to leave, I left with. I quit working at the garment factory when I got pregnant with Chad, and when I finally made up my mind to leave Gentry, I moved back home with Mama and Daddy.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked at a lot of different places. Like I said, I tied steel with James Lee,
Mm-hmm.
and I worked at the Bradford Room in Picayune.
So, in that course from your childhood to having Chad, did you take any trips
Nope.
anywhere? You never really left.
Well, when I was in about the fourth grade, right next door, I still don't believe Mama did this. There was some people moved into a house right next door to us, and they were from Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't hardly know them people, but one girl was the same age as me, and we got to be pretty good friends. And they went home to Arkansas for one summer. They was just going to be gone a week, and she let me go with them. And that's probably the first time I ever been out of Mississippi or Louisiana. Well, I know it was.
Yeah.
The only places I'd ever been is New Orleans and around here.
Mm-hmm. So, how
How
many times had you been to New Orleans even?
Not that many.
Not that many?
No.
You didn't go
Now,
regularly?
when my daddy was getting his teeth through the VA,
Mm-hmm.
he used to. This is how calm New Orleans used to be. We were probably Alice was big enough to go with us, so we was probably about 12 or 13 years old, and she was probably about 10. And they would take us and put us off at Audubon Park Zoo swimming pool,
Mm-hmm.
and we'd stay all day. And they would go to the dentist and leave us. But nothing bad ever happened to us. Nobody ever hurt us, and they had lifeguards to watch us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it wasn't like it is now.
Right. So you said your dad was getting his teeth?
Yeah,
Yeah. What were your parents like, and how did they handle having so many kids?
my daddy worked on a tugboat for as long as I can ever remember, And my mother, she worked at home and she worked hard too.
What were their names?
My daddy's name was Bobby Levine and Robert Henry Levine. Everybody called him Bobby. And he worked offshore on a tugboat. He was the captain of a tugboat. And he would be gone for like 6 weeks at a time and then home 2 weeks.
Wow.
And my mother had all of us to tend to.
What was her name?
Ena Mae Levine. Ena Mae Farmer Levine.
Right.
And she just tended to us. Linda helped her in the house, do housework. Me, I had to take the other little ones outside. The boys were off everywhere. The other girls and Shorty, my little brother, we'd have to, I would have to take them outside and keep them outside all day, except when they eat dinner and come back out.
Right.
Linda had to help Mama clean the house and cook. And I had to tend to the young ones.
Okay. So your mom was left with just all the kids
Yep.
for 6 weeks at a time?
Yep.
How the heck did she even possibly
I
take
don't
care
know.
of all of you?
I don't know. We minded. The only trouble we ever had was when Mama and Daddy would go somewhere and leave us there with our brothers. They would try to make us say yes sir and no sir to them, and I wouldn't do it. So that hit me. Linda would.
You think that's why they would say that you were the wild one because
Yeah.
you rebelled a little bit?
A lot, because I fought back.
Yeah.
I tried. My brothers were big. Like one time, Stephen they used to work out with weights out underneath the street light in front of our house all the time. All the boys from all over that neighborhood came and they had a set of weights out there and they would work out. And Stephen flipped some weights back like this and broke his arms. And Stephen was the worst one to hurt me. He would hit me or do something to me. So one day he was going to hit me with them casts, and I was running, and I thought about it. I know, I'll get him. And I just stopped and sat down, and he went.
Did you least like him out of all of your siblings, or?
Not least, but he was the meanest to me. Like one time there was a bowl of banana pudding with just a little bit left, and he wanted it, and I had it, and he was going to come over there and take it away from me, and I fought him for it, and he turned it upside down over my head.
That is mean.
Yeah,
Why was he extra mean to you?
Because I was the next. Linda was really a little Miss Sweetheart, you know. She, yes sir, no sir to them, and I wouldn't do it. And I was mean to them. I mean, I tried to give them back as good as they give me.
Yeah.
And I was the one closer to his size.
What's one of your favorite stories where you remember, or a memory that you have of all of the kids going and doing something or hanging out at the house or something happening?
There was so much difference in our ages. That only I think 1 year did all of us live in the same house, just 1 year.
Okay.
That's when Shorty was a baby. Just right after that, Willie joined the Navy and he was gone, and then Harold joined the Navy and he was gone. And Hooper worked offshore on a boat. So it really wasn't very many times that all of us was there.
Right.
And we never went anywhere together. Not all of us together.
Yeah. So your oldest brothers were what, like 13, 14 when you were born?
He was 9.
He was 9, okay. So, yeah, that's a pretty big age difference.
And then I was 11 when my baby brother was born. So
wow.
So it went that many years difference.
That's crazy. I can't imagine. Just growing up with Jackson was too much for me. So, you go and you go graduate high school, you go work at the garment factory, you go and work a couple of other jobs, and then you get a divorce, and you finally, was there any, did you have to fight for custody of Chad, or
No, he
you,
didn't. He didn't. He didn't care about Chad. He never even wanted to see him.
well, at least,
And the only time he ever came to see him was the his graduation. He showed up at his graduation, and Chad was so excited because he gave him $200 for graduation,
oh, wow.
and that was a lot for us.
Yeah, no, that's a lot of money.
And he was just so. I said, "Well, $200 ain't not too bad for 18 years
Yeah,
like that."
yeah. Were you angry at him?
At Chad?
No, no,
No,
no,
at
no.
Gentry?
At Gentry.
I hated him.
Yeah.
No, I don't hate nobody, but I don't
No,
like him.
you can be honest. I would hate him,
I don't hate nobody, honestly. I don't.
but
But I still dislike him. Like when Chad died, that life insurance he left to me, he didn't sign the paper. And Gentry got a lawyer and was going to try to get half of it. And but he didn't. He only got $25,000. But he got $25,000. And that lawyer said his eyes went off like a slot machine.
it's
He
gross.
didn't care nothing about him. And now, you know where he lives?
Where?
Right up there by Mama's house, Mama's old house,
Really? Where did you guys live growing up?
on Bell Street.
Where's that?
You know where that Peking Motel is?
Mhm.
Well, you know how that road goes out in front of it?
Mhm.
Well, the very first road that turns off of it. Once you go off of it in
Yeah,
front of
by
that
Down Street.
yeah, it was down street runs off of Farrell Street.
Mhm.
Well, yeah.
We went. Our my friend Gage and Darian, that where Aubrey went and hung out. They live on Down Street.
Well,
Yeah.
I used to know a lot of people on Down Street too.
Yeah.
Well, it's right. That house is. I don't know what they ever going to do about that house. When my mother died, we all signed it to Addie Mae. And then when Addie Mae died, some of them went and signed it over where my brother Willie could take it. And it ended, supposed to be in foreclosure, but it's not. I've called and tried to check on it. And they're just holding it back for some reason. And my mother's been dead for 26 years. I don't know what the deal is on that house.
Yeah, I don't know either. I do remember going there as a kid and going and hanging out with Addie Mae, and Matthew and Jade
Yeah.
lived right down the street, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, uh, so how long was it after you and Gentry got divorced that you met Paul Paul?
I met him that May of 72, and we got married in October of 72.
Mm-hmm.
Mine and Gentry's divorce was the 18th of October, and me and Cooter got married the 27th.
Woo! You're a player, Momo.
No, I just loved him.
Yeah, no, I know. He was a wonderful, wonderful
Yeah,
guy.
he was. If you would have known him before he got sick, he was
I
the
have
sweetest thing.
I have memories from before he got sick. I was very young, but I do have memories. And I
He was
remember.
a really good just laid back, take things as they come.
Mm-hmm.
And he accepted Chad and treated Chad just like his own son.
I thought forever that he was.
Nobody ever hardly knew the difference. And Carrie, he worshipped her. I mean, she could just have him around her finger.
He was the sweetest man I ever met.
Yeah.
And I just remember him barbecuing on the
Yeah.
stone brick grill out
Yeah.
there, and he would put salt on his watermelon when we would have watermelon
Yeah.
in the summer, and he told me and Jackson that that big rock out there was
A dinosaur
a
egg.
dinosaur egg, and we believed him. And or he gave me my first ever vehicle. I know that was way later when he was sick and couldn't drive it anymore, but I loved that truck and I really appreciated it.
He was a good person. He was a really good person.
He was a great person. And what did uh what did he do after the Navy?
He,
Or
the
I'm sorry, after the
airport.
Air Force, yeah.
He did mostly construction work until Carrie was little. Carrie was, she was 2 or 3. And he went, well, before that, whenever she was not even a year old, he went to school in Gulfport to learn to a trade school to learn to weld. And he was really good at it. And he went, but he never did get certified because before it came time, come to find out he's allergic to the metal, the alloy in the metal. He broke out in boils all over his body,
Oh God.
even on his eardrums.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's what was wrong. That's what the doctors found was wrong. So we moved to Baton Rouge when Carrie was 2, and we lived over there until she was about 3. And when we moved back, we moved in that yellow house on the corner, and then we bought that blue house. You remember in Nicholson?
Yep.
When she was about 3 years old, and we lived there ever since till we came here.
Yeah. So you and Papa were married for a little over a year before you had mom?
Yeah, oh yeah. We married October the 27th in
72?
1972, and Carrie was born August the 10th, 1974.
74. Yeah. So where were you, what house were you guys living in whenever you had?
Carrie was born. We had an apartment in Gulfport.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we lived in Gulfport. He hung sheetrock in Gulfport with his brother Harry, and we lived up there. And then we moved back and forth between Picayune and Gulfport several times, kind of where the work was, you know. But the first house we bought was that blue house. I mean, we had been married. She was. We'd probably been married about 6 years when we bought that house, and we paid for that house in 5 years. You know how much we paid for that house?
How much?
$16,500.
It's a pretty good deal. You got a pretty good deal. Uh, how was mom growing up? What was it like just raising Chad
She,
and mom together?
they did good together. They did. Carrie was real extra smart. She was real smart. Chad was too. In fact, Chad was probably they went to Nicholson School, and whenever he was took it the 3rd grade IQ test, he scored 125 on it,
Oh wow.
and he didn't make the special ed class. I mean the gifted class. And then the few years, 3 years difference, 2.5 or 3 years difference. When Carrie took it, she only made 120, and she was in the gifted class.
Why do you think they kept him out of it?
He didn't want to be in it. You know what he done?
What?
They made fun of people that was in that, and he was one of these big tough. He wasn't big at all, but he thought he was tough. And some. They started asking him questions. They asked him, I said, where does wool come from? He said, wolves. You know he knew better than that.
Yeah.
He just said that to fail the test.
Was Chad funny, or was he more
Yeah,
serious?
he was funny. He was mostly always joking around. He was smart till he got to junior high, and then he was like a big fish in a little pond at Nicholson. He didn't have to do nothing to make real good grades. But
Mm.
when he got to junior high, he couldn't do like that. He had to do homework, and he wouldn't do it.
He went to
And
junior high at Picayune.
and said, yeah, he finished from Picayune. Him and Carrie did. But he didn't make as good grades as Carrie did. Carrie worked for her grades, but he just skid through as little as he could do.
You think that he was like me in that regard?
No, you did good.
I did do good, but I felt like I didn't put in the effort that I should have. And
If you'd have put more effort in it, and Chad would have put more effort in it, he could have done it. He could do anything that he wanted to do. He taught himself how to juggle. He taught himself how to play a guitar. He was in a band. Him and his friends made a band, and they won the talent show.
how long did they have the band, and how old was he when they put it together?
About 14, 15. And it was, um, they didn't stay together but about a year, maybe a little over a year. But they had a talent show at Nicholson Nicholson Elementary, but it was open to the public. He was already in junior high. And him and his friends, they won that talent contest. He had a big old trophy this tall. And you know what he done? Come
What?
home and put it in the trash. I had to dig it out.
Is that the type of person that he was? He just
He
didn't.
didn't. He didn't care about all that kind of stuff.
He just liked the experience
Yeah,
and actually doing stuff.
yeah.
That's cool. Wish I was more like that sometimes.
Hey, no, you remind me of him a lot.
Yeah, I know y'all always said that. I wish I would have met him.
I wish you would have too.
Yeah. So, Mom,
He's the one that told me you was going to be here.
what do you mean?
He's the one that told me that your mama was pregnant.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did Mom not want you to know yet?
She was at his house. He lived in Hattiesburg,
Oh, okay.
and she was at his house, and he got on the phone and he told me that, and I said, "Tell her to come home." And I said, "Everything's okay. Just come home." And he put her on there, and I said the same thing. He said, she handed back the phone. I could hear her saying, "Chad, she didn't understand what you said. Tell her again."
Oh, because she thought you were gonna be mad.
Yeah.
Did you like Dad at the time?
Oh, I've always loved your daddy. When Chad died, he was my rock. I have always loved him.
So, Chad, Chad died in 1996.
Yep. And my mother did too.
That must have been a tough year.
It was. Not as bad as this year. No,
Yeah.
it was last year.
Yeah. How'd you manage to get through that year? Losing
A
Chad.
lot of screaming. I worked in the carrier post office, and I took off about 2.5 weeks when he died. I mean, they just kept on till I come back. And every day I would get in the car, and on the way up there and on the way back, I'd just roll up the windows and scream. Just scream as loud as I could scream. And that's the only way I need to get the pain out. And that's what I done for about a year.
Every time you drove to work for a year, you just screamed.
Yep, back and forth. To and then back.
Did you try to stay strong around everyone else, or
No, I hurt too bad. Everybody tried to be strong for me. That was the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life till Cooter died.
I know, Mama. I can't imagine. You're not
And
supposed to lose a child.
Well, what hurt me even more than that, he did it himself. You know. But I'd rather him do it himself than somebody else done, because I would have died too, because I would have killed him. So, God knows what he's doing. But there's a lot of stuff about all that I can't talk about.
Why not?
It just hurts too bad.
I understand. No, I've never been able to imagine the pain that you or mom or papa felt going through that period. I've never lost someone extremely unexpectedly that I was that close to or loved that much, you know?
Yeah.
About,
You, we didn't talk about when your mama was born.
yeah, let's talk about it.
One day we lived in Gulfport. I was pregnant with Carrie, and I had a kidney infection. And so I spent the night at Mama's where I could go to the doctor the next day, and then I was going to go home. And I did. Well, that night, in the middle of the night, I got up and I went to the bathroom, and a pain shot through my head. I couldn't. I don't know. I don't know how I got from that room to where Mama was, but Mama said I came crawling in there, and they got me up and took me to the hospital, and they put me in the maternity ward. I told them, I said, it's my head. I have a blood clot. No, no. I said, my leg hurt all day, and I know it's a blood clot. No, no, if it was a blood clot, it would have went down and not up. So they sent me to Hattiesburg, and they did spinal taps and all that. By then, I was going in and out of consciousness. But they sent me home, and I laid in Mama's bed for 12 days after that. And finally, it was like I woke up and knew where I was and what was happening. And it was on a Thursday, and I knew that if I didn't do something, I was going to die. And so I called the doctor's office again, and luckily I didn't get Dr. Gibson, the one that all he was doing was giving me morphine shots. For 2 weeks he did. And so whenever Dr. Blackburn told me, he said, Glenda, I don't know what's wrong with you. He said, don't even stop in Picayune. Go to Hattiesburg. So they was taking me to Hattiesburg. And the car, a wheel bearing went bad in the car and caught on fire. And some man stopped, and he took me and Mama it was me and Mama to Hattiesburg. And I got up there, and they told when Cooter finally got home and got up there where she was, that they told Cooter to keep me up all night long. So this Thursday night, and I stayed up all night long. Well, Friday morning, they did some kind of test, and they said, I don't know. They don't know what's wrong with me. So they flew me to Jackson. That's when the first CAT scans were. It was in 1974, and I was in Jackson, and they put me up on a CAT scan table and did a CAT scan. I had a blood clot on my head, on my brain, and usually a blood clot, the instant it ruptures, the vessel ruptures, you die.
Mm-hmm.
And I had laid up there, I'd had it for 14 days. So they told Cooter and my daddy and Mama there wasn't any. I had 2% chance of living, none for the baby. So Cooter signed the papers and they did the surgery. They said, well, if she don't go into labor, she might be all right. They all left, and just me and Cooter and just a few of us was there. And I went into labor. I didn't know it. I was still unconscious from the surgery. That was on a Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
And Saturday morning, Carrie was born. I still hadn't woke up. Sunday morning, when I woke up, I got up and walked to she was on a different floor, and I walked and went and seen her.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, they moved her from one side of the hospital place to the other side, which was the intensive care unit. They put her in it, and I didn't know why. They never told me. And they just said, it's because the way she was born. So in my mind, I thought she was addicted to drugs, or, because like I said, I took morphine.
Yeah.
But am I running out of your tape? You want me to
No,
quit
no,
talking?
no, no, no. Keep going, please.
Whenever she was born, when she was 5 days old, she had a heart attack. And that's when they moved her to the intensive care unit.
Mm-hmm.
They kept her at the hospital until she was 16 days old to get her heart regulated, because her heart, instead of the blood going through the little veins in the brain, hers was gushing through. She had an AB malformation in her head. It was going through that and making her heart grow. So at 5 days old, she had an adult-sized heart. That's when she went into failure. And then, so it took them from then till she was 16 days old to get her heart regulated enough to do that MRI on her brain. And she had to have brain surgery.
At 15 days old,
She was 19 days old.
19 days old, she had to
Right.
have brain surgery. I mean,
I had already went home, and me and Cooter come back, and Harold brought Mama. Anyway, Butch and Linda was in a different waiting room, and they was the ones that got to see Carrie first. She was when she was born. But anyway, when Carrie got to come home, she was a month old to the day.
mm-hmm.
She was 30 days old when she got to come home from the hospital. And she had a little heart murmur when she was real young, but it went away. She's never had any more trouble with that, except in her foot. You know how her foot is.
Yeah. How scary was it? I mean, like
The
you.
first, when I had it in my lung,
Mm-hmm.
that's the same thing it was.
Mm-hmm.
When I had it in my lung, I was the first one in Mississippi that ever had it,
Mm-hmm.
that ever diagnosed. And that was in 65. This is 74. Carrie had it, and she was only the third. That's how rare it is.
Wow. So, just, you're very late in your pregnancy, right? Was she premature?
No, she was born. She was born 19 days early. She had her surgery
On the day she was supposed to
supposed
be
to be
born?
born.
Wow. So, you're really late into your pregnancy and you start having a bunch of problems, tingling in your leg, and, you're convinced you have a blood clot, and everybody's telling you you don't, and you finally get flown out to Jackson and get told that you do, and they're going to take care of you, and, you're unconscious, and you wake up. Do you remember waking up?
Yep, I remember waking up.
What I mean, you look down and you're no longer pregnant, and
There was doctors all over the room, and there was one doctor in there, and he said, "You've got a brother that loves you." I said, "Which one?" He said, "I don't know what his name was, but said I thought we was gonna have to put him in there." Friday night, he said, half of Mississippi was in the waiting room Friday night when you had her.
And you were just unconscious the whole
Yeah,
time.
I was unconscious all the time.
What did it feel like to wake up and not be pregnant? You know, you pass out and
The first thing I said, what did I have? Because then they didn't tell you
right.
before. A girl, and I said, I don't want a girl, I want a boy. And that nurse said, well, do you want to put it back?
So,
Then I wanted to get up and go see her.
and you were able to walk
Yep.
there?
My head was all, had a turban on it.
Yeah.
I remember the first time they ever took that turban off, too. They took me in a room, and I swear that room had mirror on every wall. And they unwrapped that ball, and there, you know, you're going to shave your head when you have your brain surgery, but it don't dawn on you that you're bald.
Right.
Then they unwrap your head, and there you sit, bald as an eagle.
Just scare yourself?
Yeah, I look like my brother Johnny.
So, she finally got to come home when she was a month old, and you said she had heart murmurs.
Yeah.
What did she ever have any other complications?
Well, she had one of her hands started turning blue, and it scared me. And we took her to the doctor, and they put her in there. And on Cooter's side of the family, his family have 2 extra ribs right here, and she does. And it was pinching a blood vessel there, causing her to. They said, oh, she'll outgrow it, and she did.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't have that, do I?
I don't know.
I don't think I do. You got me feeling now.
You wouldn't matter. Cooter had it. You would
Yeah.
never know it.
That's crazy.
I know.
2 extra ribs.
Right here.
That's weird. So, you raise 2 kids with Paw Paw. What was the overall experience, raising Chad and
The best time of my life was the 80s. They were both young, and what we did for our entertainment was on Friday night we'd get a big box of Popeye's chicken, throw down some beach towels, and watch Duke of Hazzards. That was what was fun to us.
Yeah, that sounds like a good time.
That's what we done every Friday night. And then every Sunday after church, we went to Pizza Hut and eat. That's the only 2 things we ever did. We didn't go out and eat like everybody. My mama had never even went hardly out to eat until I started taking her. That's why I feel so out of place in restaurants,
Yeah. Is Colorado the furthest away from home you've ever been?
I went to California right after my daddy died, because when my daddy died, it was November the 8th. And so on Christmas Day, me and Mom flew to see my cousin Toxie in California. And on the way over there, she fainted. We went to Lake Tahoe, and she passed out about 4 times because she was up on the mountain. And then on the way home, she fainted again on the. We had both took some money with us. She was just spending hers as fast as she could, and I wouldn't spend a dime. I was holding on to my money. She said, "Why ain't you fainting?" I said, "Because, Mama, you might have to go to the doctor."
Because she kept fainting?
Yeah.
You think it was just because she was scared, or?
No, probably she was weak from staying. She stayed with my daddy in the hospital for about a month, about 3 weeks before he died. And she didn't eat right, and she just didn't take care of herself when he was in there, and she was weak. And we were up in the mountains, like it would be in Denver, not
Yeah.
that high, but I didn't have any fun when I went. I didn't have a bit of fun, because we
You were
went
just
to
worried.
Lake Tahoe right away, and My daddy had just died, and whenever I seen her fall out on the floor, I thought she was dead.
Right. And so you were just
So all I
scared
could
it was
do
gonna
was
happen
stand there
again.
by her and just shake. I did. All I wanted to do was go home, and they just, oh, she's gonna be okay. She's gonna be okay. If my cousin would have really thought anything bad was wrong with my mama, he would have took her to the hospital.
Hmm. When what year was that?
1980,
And when did your mom pass?
1996.
Oh yeah, same year as Chad.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mama died January the 20th, and Chad didn't die till September the 2nd.
how how did you and Paul come across this house?
I was working at the post office, and we had thought this woman that lived here, her husband died, and they was gonna have to sell this house because uh, his his two daughters owned half of it.
Hmm.
He didn't realize it. He thought he had bought them out. Anyway, after he died, they went and they had to sell his house. So I talked to her, and just us and one other person went to a lawyer's office and made a bid on this house. And do you believe I got it? We got it for $50 more. They bid 1,000. Let's see, it was 1,014. 140,000 is what we paid for it.
Okay.
And the other people bid 50, and we bid 100 over.
Dang.
So that we got it by $50.
Dang, that was lucky.
I know,
And
because it's probably appraised for way more than what we paid for it.
hmm, for sure. What what year did you buy this house and get moved in?
The same year Jackson was born, 1999.
Wow.
Jackson was a bitty baby.
So tell me about what it was like whenever me and then Jackson was born. For you, what was your perspective of
You was the first person I ever seen be born in my life.
really?
Yes, I never seen neither one of mine be born. I was asleep with Carrie, and they kept a mask thing on me with Chad because I
Yeah.
screamed a lot. And so when your mama went to have you and Jackson, me and Miss Sue, we got to go in there and watch y'all be born.
Wow.
I know that was the most amazing thing I had ever seen in my whole entire life.
Uh, I know that you helped my parents out a lot once they did have me, and also when they had Jackson. What was your relationship with my parents like once I came into the picture?
We've always been close. When you come home from the hospital, you come home to that little house in Nicholson,
Hmm.
and
On
then
Jackson Landon.
yeah, yeah, that was on Jackson Landing Road,
Hmm.
sure was. And but your mama had took the test at Hattiesburg, and she got that job,
Hmm.
and so they we had got them a trailer, and they sold their trailer, and they got more for the trailer than we had paid for it.
Hmm.
And they bought that little house in Petal,
Hmm.
where you and your daddy went up there, and your mama made more money,
Hmm.
so he stayed home with you, and your mama worked in Hattiesburg, and it went like that, I think, until Jackson was. I think he might have probably worked at the restaurants before then. I don't really know. Because we didn't get to see y'all very much. Y'all didn't come around. Because Carrie worked a lot.
I think early on, Dad worked at Emerald Lagasse's in
Oh, and when
New
he went to
Orleans.
school, I know he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he got out of school, whenever he lived in that little Y'all lived in that little house in Petal, and then you decided to go to school in Oregon,
Hmm.
and you and Jackson and your mama come and live with us while he went to school.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then whenever he'd come back, y'all went back and y'all bought that house that you was living in.
In Hattiesburg,
Yeah, in Hattiesburg.
Pine Hill Drive.
Yep, Pine Hill Drive. And y'all stayed there until I retired, and then your mama took my job, and y'all come here for a while. And then you bought a house, and then you come. When Cooter got worse, your daddy just told me he'd come in here and told me, he says, "We're gonna sell our house and move in with you and help you." And I said, "Good."
Was that a relief?
Yep.
Yeah, I remember. It was. We just wanted to be close to you, and that's too much
I
for
needed
one
help.
person.
I needed help.
That's too much for one person to handle. And especially, that's just, physically, not to mention all the emotional.
Yep.
So, well, Momo, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Well, thank you for letting me.
Do you have it? Oh, I want to, if you would, just flip through this book and some of the stuff that you have in here, some of the pictures and stuff. Would you just tell me a little bit if you any stories or any feelings or thoughts pop up about anything you wrote in there, or any of the pictures in there specifically?
This is a very unusual thing. When we were born, when me and Linda were born,
Hmm.
I weighed 10.5 pounds, and Linda weighed 10.25 pounds.
How? That's 20 pounds of
It's
baby.
almost 21 pounds of baby.
Oh my God, your mom must have been the strongest woman in the world.
She had to go. She had to go to bed for a couple of months before we were born. But that's like a record.
Yeah, that's gotta be. That's insane.
Yep. That's what this says right here. Oh, this is me and your daddy. I mean, my sweetheart. I was in first grade, and I don't know what grade he was in.
Show Aubrey.
Similar, that's in there.
Those are sweet pictures.
I probably didn't have no front teeth, just like I do now.
You're one of the funniest people I know, Momo.
That's when we got married. We got married in a bar. Well, we got married at the Peanut Man's house. He sold peanuts to different stores, but he was also a justice of the peace.
Okay,
And we went to his house and got married, and we had our reception in a bar.
that's beautiful. You guys look amazing.
And that's my high school picture, my senior picture.
You look so much like Mom did. You two are both beautiful.
Thank you. And that's mine and Linda's last birthday that she was alive.
I remember I was standing in the garage when y'all took that picture.
And that's all the ones that's younger than me and Linda.
Including, what was the baby, the
That's
youngest?
Shorty,
Shorty, yeah.
and that's Little Bit and Biggie. And there's Addie Mae and Alice. It's all of them that's younger than us.
Yeah.
This was made the day Linda was buried, the day of Linda's funeral.
I remember. You wore that dress. I love that dress. 2009.
Yep.
Doesn't feel like that long ago.
And this was whenever I was in the. This is My favorite year of my life was when I was 17, and I was 17 there.
Tell me about when you were 17.
I had fun. I had fun when I was 17. I met Susan Goodwin. She's not even in this picture. That's Josie. But her mother and daddy didn't have but 2 kids, and they kind of, I guess they had a little money, not a lot, but they wasn't hurting, and they always let us go places I went and seen Jimi Hendrix, I went and seen the Animals, I didn't see the Beatles, I seen Vanilla Fudge, but I can't even remember all of them.
When you were 17?
Yeah,
You just had a heck of a time, huh?
I did.
Running the roads, being a wild child.
Yeah, yep, yep.
Who was your favorite performance you ever saw live?
Jimi Hendrix. I, I feel like that was I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I would feel like I was so lucky, just really lucky to got to see him.
No, even
Because this was just before he died.
yeah, that's amazing. Anybody would kill to see Jimi Hendrix live
He
now.
he throwed it down on his guitar on the floor and played it with his teeth and his body. And then at the end he took the guitar and just rammed it through a Marshall lamp. And it just like blew up. That was wild.
I bet that was crazy.
It was. It was. But we had fun then too.
Yeah.
That I was probably in the 5th grade. It says here. What a little nerd. Huh?
You had a little bob haircut.
Yeah. Look how white my hair was in that one.
Wow.
I mean, it was completely without any color.
Yeah. You had very, very blonde hair. What was this?
That's
yeah, I saw that one.
I don't see it anymore.
There might not be any more. Yeah. Well, are there any other stories or something filler that you thought about that you didn't mention that you wanted to bring up?
I just can tell you that I had a really good parents. They were really good they wasn't real religious. I think they were saved, but they didn't go to church, but they took good care of us. For my daddy made good money. If he had only had 1 or 2 kids, that'd have been rich. But he had 12. Actually, he had 13, but 1 died. And Cooter's family, there was 13 of them, but they lived on a big farm that they worked, a tobacco farm that they had work and got paid for.
Right.
All the kids.
So they needed the kids.
Yeah.
Did your parents just have that many kids because they wanted to? Or
I guess so. Mama told me one time she just took everything God gave her.
That's sweet. Well, God gave her the most wonderful grandmother to me that I could ever imagine.
Thank you, Cole.
I love you so much.
I love you so much.
And I appreciate everything you've ever done for me.
I love you.
I know. All right. Well, thank you for sitting down and talking to us.
Okay.
And telling me all your stories.